Evening everyone, hope you're all well. This is another video in direct response to today's press conference by the Prime Minister, but specifically to the announcement relating to landlords and tenants. And I've already seen on social media, on Facebook, in the groups, lots of people commenting and asking questions, people making statements around this 3-month eviction-free period. Now, let me just give you my take on it. Now, this is just my opinion. The details are still yet to be published, and I'm sure each landlord and each tenant will have their own set of circumstances. But within this video, I'm going to give you my experience already today. I've had a conversation with a lender that I've got on one property, and their response was definitely not something as a landlord that you would expect and want to hear. So let's just recap on what's been announced. So tenants effectively, the statement has been made that no tenants will be evicted through this crisis. What does that mean? That means for the next 3 months, there's going to be no new eviction processes accepted for the tenants by landlords. Is this an excuse? Is this an opportunity to not pay the rent? That's absolutely not what it is. This is a period of time for people who are struggling to open up and have a discussion with a landlord to work through an amicable way to resolve the issue if people are struggling. And whatever that solution is, the rent will still need to be paid, whether it's today, tomorrow, a couple of weeks, months down the line. And let's just make that really important, recap on that point, because it's very similar to the mortgage holiday that's been offered. Because mortgage holiday isn't the same as mortgage free. That mortgage payment will still need to be paid if you decide to take advantage of that 3-month period. Whether that needs to be paid at a later date, broken down over a 12-month period, tacked on to the principal of the whole loan, we don't know yet. And I'm sure each and every case will be judged on its own individual needs and requirements. So what does that mean for us, you and I, as landlords? So most people in a position who are landlords will have a mortgage payment, and obviously the rental income will come in and will cover that mortgage payment. But the rental income is normally higher than the mortgage, and that is how we make a profit, and that profit is how most of us live. So what happens if all of the tenants decide to stop paying their rent? I wanted to do this video and make it really, really clear to landlords and tenants that the rent is absolutely still payable. It's still owed and it's still due, as is the mortgage payments. This is just a highlight into an area where people will be having anxieties, they'll be nervous, especially people who have been one of the many thousands that are affected and lost income and jobs, whether that be a job through some of the shop closures or the businesses that have announced that they're closing, or whether it's individual self-employed people or business owners whose business has been restricted completely by the recent crisis. It's to highlight that those circumstances are happening right now, and the conversations need to happen between landlord and tenant, because there is still mortgages that need to be paid, so the homes are still in the ownership of the landlord, which allows the tenant to live there. So the tenants still need to pay their rent. There just needs to be a workable solution on how and when that happens. And everyone, I suggest and I encourage you to open up those conversations with landlords and tenants alike. So going one step further. So today I had a text message from someone who has been directly affected, and they sent me loads of documentations, got a really good relationship with the tenant there. And I decided to make a phone call to the lender, just so I was repeating the request from my tenant. And the tenant definitely did not request not to pay their rent. They just asked me if there was a way that they could pay that same amount in a different way over a different period that would help and assist their ability to manage their cash flow, which of course I was happy to work with, because it meant the rent was still coming in. It was actually coming in more regularly. It's just coming in, in smaller amounts, but more regularly. So I went and had the phone call with the lender, and I'm not going to say who the lender is because I'm sure after tonight's announcements they're going to change their stance. But their abrupt end to my question was absolutely not. This is a buy-to-let mortgage, not residential. We are not obliged to, we are not obligated to follow the government's request, and we're not going to. And you need to resolve the situation yourself. So I decided to let that go, and I thought I won't start a debate and a conversation with someone on the end of the phone, but I will just do some research and take some advice. Now, this particular mortgage is one of the very few that I have left in my personal name, and it's a regulated product. And the advice, which is all still very fresh and new, but it was absolutely, if this has been extended officially by the government to buy-to-let mortgages, then lenders have to stand up and take note. So I called up again and got a different advisor, and I am only speaking to an advisor at the end of the phone, so I'm sure they're only telling me what they've been told. And their stance had already shifted. So absolutely the conversation that I had earlier on, I'm sure had been repeated further up the chain, and that had started an internal discussion where the lenders definitely had to start looking at what they were advising the people on the ends of the phones, talking to the landlords like you and I. And all of this government, which I think the government interaction, and I think the government injections of cash and how they're propping up the economy at such speed on a daily basis, things are changing, has been very good. And I think the individuals, the Chancellor, the Prime Minister, his advisors, I think they've been fantastic. I really do. And but their processes that they're putting in place and the measures that they're putting in place are just not going to work if they are not going to be followed through by the likes of lenders. So my advice, and the real reason for doing this video, is if you tomorrow you pick up the phone to a lender, a buy-to-let lender, and you get a similar first hurdle like I did today, my advice is to not stop there. There's no need to be rude, there's no need to shout. Everyone is in very similar circumstances, and I'm sure they're speaking to lots of distressed landlords at the moment who inevitably are dealing with distressed tenants. And it's just a case of sticking to your guns, standing your ground, and being resilient enough to persist with the request of the payment holiday. It is only a holiday. That sum will have to be paid, and it may end up costing a bit more if it's taxed onto the outstanding balance, and the interest will increase over time. These are things to all consider. So to preventively strike, have conversations with your tenants. If there is a period of time, definitely in these early stages, where no action is needed, then my advice is to not act too rationally. Let this play itself out, and if for the next 4 weeks or 6 weeks or 8 weeks you can continue with your tenants just paying as normal, then absolutely do that. But if not, and you need to have those conversations and ring up and speak to the lenders, then absolutely the measures have been put in place to help everybody, and they need to be stuck to. So that's really it. Really short video from me, just under 9 minutes. I hope you're all keeping very safe. We obviously heard today that the schools are going to be closed on Friday. We don't know for how long. So that did get me thinking. And even though I'm a property guy doing YouTube videos about things that relate to property, I'm going to post some videos about what I'm going to be doing with my children next week to keep them entertained and keep them from arguing and fighting amongst each other too much. So do keep an eye out for some of those. But do stay safe. And if you've got any comments or questions or any suggestions what you'd like to hear from me, just leave a little comment in there, and I'll try and come back to you, or if not, do a video on the subject. But that's it from me. Have a great evening, guys, and I'll talk to you all soon. Thank you.